Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and the Merciful. Now today's main headlines. New research indicates structural systematic bias in UK media coverage of Muslims. SRW condemns terrorist atrocities against Shia and Alawiya communities in Syria. Human rights trafficking surges post-pandemic, UN reports. World Uyghur Congress protests in Geneva on Genocide Remembrance Day. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. This is Hussein Jawad and you're watching Shia Waves live from Imam Hussein TV 3 in London. A recent report by the Centre of Media Monitoring highlights significant anti-Muslim bias in UK media, particularly in the coverage of GB News, which accounted for nearly half of all mentions of Muslims and Islam across UK news channels. More details in the following report.
Research published by the Centre for Media Monitoring, CFMM, on Tuesday, December 10th revealed widespread anti-Muslim bias in British media, with GB News responsible for approximately 50% of all coverage related to Muslims and Islam. The two-year analysis identified structural and systematic bias in GB News reporting, noting an excessive focus on Muslims that borders on obsession, often demonizing their beliefs. The report indicated that GB News mentioned Muslims or Islam over 17,000 times, while mainstream outlets like BBC News and Sky News accounted for 32% and 21% of mentions. It also highlighted that GB News referenced Islamophobia 1,180 times, predominantly framing it as a concept to be dismissed. During recent far-right riots, GB News reported 62% of clips associating Muslims with the unrest, significantly more than its competitors. The violence was fueled by false claims linking a stabbing suspect to Muslim asylum seekers, contributing to a biased narrative that framed Muslims as perpetrators rather than victims. The CFMM warned that such coverage risks inciting violence against Muslim communities and called for the UK's communications regulator, Ofcom, to take stronger action against biased reporting. In response, GB News dismissed the report as inaccurate and defamatory, asserting it aims to uphold free speech. This is Aruj Fasma for Shia Waves.
Shia Rights Watch issued a statement condemning what is described as horrific crimes committed by terrorist groups against Shia and Alawite civilians in Syria. According to eyewitnesses reports, SRW said that these groups carried out mass executions in villages, in homes and Latakia provinces. The rights group called for immediate international action to condemn these violations and implement effective political and security measures to stop the bloodshed and protect innocent civilians. It warned that continuation of such crimes could lead to further escalation. The statement emphasized the urgent need to safeguard vulnerable communities facing direct threats amid ongoing armed conflicts in Syria. A recent United Nations report reveals a sharp rise in human trafficking globally, attributed to conflicts, climate-induced disasters, and ongoing crisis. In 2022, the number of known victims exceeded pre-pandemic levels by 25%, totaling 69,627 victims. Adult women represent the largest group at 39%, followed by men at 23%, girls at 22%, and boys at 16%. Children accounted for 38% of detected victims, an increase from 35% in 2020. The report highlights that organized crime is increasingly involved in trafficking individuals for forced labor, including online scams and cyber fraud. For women and girls, 60% were trafficked for sexual exploitation, while men and boys were primarily trafficked for forced labor. Sub-Saharan Africa accounted for 26% for victims, with significant increases in detected cases noted in North America and Western and Southern Europe, driven by migration influxes. Improved detection methods may partly explain the rising numbers. Let's take a look back at today's main headlines. New research indicates structural systematic bias in UK media coverage of Muslims. Shia Rights Watch condemns terrorist atrocities against Shia and Alawites communities in Syria. Human trafficking surges post-pandemic, UN reports. Also, tonight, Baghdad named Arab tourism capital for 2025. The World Uyghur Congress, WUC, held a significant protest in front of the Broken Chair monument near the United Nations in Geneva, commemorating Uyghur Genocide Remembrance Day. The demonstration aimed to draw attention to the ongoing atrocities faced by the Uyghur Muslim minority in China's Xinjiang region and called for urgent international action. In a statement on the social media's platform X, the WUC emphasized the need for the international community to address the grave human rights violations against the Uyghurs, which include allegations of genocide, mass detentions, forced labor, and cultural assimilation. The WUC Youth Committee encouraged young people globally to raise their voices against these injustices, asserting that silence is complicity. And now we continue with some short news. Tensions between India and Bangladesh have escalated following the arrest of Hindu monk Chinmoy Krishna Das in Dhaka, accused of sedition for allegedly raising a Hindu flag during a rally. This incident has sparked protests in India with Hindu groups claiming persecution of Hindus in Bangladesh. Bangladeshi officials, however, label these accusations as misinformation, asserting that the violence is politically motivated rather than religiously driven. Both governments are attempting to manage the fallout, with Bangladesh emphasizing the need for improved relations. Analysts warn that the ongoing narrative could worsen Hindu-Muslim relations in Bangladesh and undermine regional stability. Clashes between Turkish-backed and Kurdish-led forces in northern Syria have resulted in the deaths of 218 individuals over a span of just 3 days. Reports are that at least 218 members from both pro-Kurdish forces and pro-Ankara factions were killed during the fighting in and around Manbij, where Turkish-backed factions initiated an offensive. This comes after the ouster of al-Assad from the war-torn nation, with rebel forces taking control of the country. The security void poses threats to regional stability, and some experts have warned. The Wandsworth Athenaeum Museum in Hartford, Connecticut is hosting the Sacred Geometry exhibition from December 8th to the 10th, featuring over 1,000 years of Islamic art history. According to the organizers, highlights include rare manuscripts, Ottoman ceramics, Persian glassware, and modern digital installations. Curator Sarah Johnson emphasized the richness of floral motifs, geometric Arab sequence, and Arabic calligraphy. Local artisans, including renowned calligrapher Hassan Musa, are participating to showcase the living traditions of Islamic art. The exhibition serves as a precursor to permanent Islamic art space planned for 2026, developed in collaboration with the local Muslim community to foster cultural appreciation. Myanmar's junta is preparing to dispatch migrant workers to Russia in 2025, responding to a request from Russia amid its acute labour shortage of nearly 5 million workers due to the ongoing war in Ukraine. The first group will likely work in agriculture, livestock, construction and factories, with a requirement to learn Russian. Only 2 out of nearly 600 overseas employment agencies in Myanmar have secured licenses for this initiative, raising concerns about potential rights violations. Labour advocates warn that workers may face severe human rights abuses, likening the situation to previous mistreatment experienced by Myanmar migrants in China. The United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan urged the Taliban on Tuesday, December 10th, to comply with global human rights standards, emphasizing that this is crucial for the protection and prosperity of all Afghans, particularly women and girls. This year's theme, Our Rights, Our Future, Right Now, highlights the transformative potential of human rights in tackling societal challenges. Rosa, the Secretary General's Special Representative for Afghanistan, noted a troubling erosion of human rights protections despite improvements in security. She stated that women and girls are disproportionately affected by these violations. The UN criticized the Taliban's de facto government for systematically including women and girls from education, work and public life, a pattern that has drawn international condemnation. Fiona Fraser, the UN's human rights representative in Afghanistan, reiterated that denying fundamental rights to women and girls undermines the well-being of all Afghans. The UN's appeal comes amid severe human rights violations, including multiple bans on women's education in the country. The Arab Tourism Organization has named Baghdad as the Arab Tourism Capital for 2025 during the 27th Arab Ministerial Council for Tourism held at the Arab League headquarters. Baghdad's selection was based on criteria such as tourism sector management, infrastructure, development, diverse resources, environmental sustainability and safety measures. The decision aims to highlight Baghdad's cultural and historical significance while promoting inter-Arab tourism. Events and programs will be organized throughout 2025 in collaboration with Iraq's Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Antiquities to boost the city's regional and international tourism appeal. We have reached the end of today's Shia Waves news. Let's remind our dear viewers of today's main headlines. New research indicates structural systematic bias in UK media coverage of Muslims. Shia Rights Watch condemns terrorist atrocities against Shia and Alawite communities in Syria. Human trafficking surges post-pandemic, UN reports. World Uyghur Congress protests in Geneva on Genocide Remembrance Day. Baghdad named Arab Tourism Capital for 2025. You can view the latest news on our Shia Waves website, and you can see news of your city or country to be published on a news agency. Contact the numbers at the bottom of the screen. Thank you all for watching. We pray to Allah Almighty to hasten the appearance of the Master of our time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The sun sets and is silent. There is no one that's patient. As hearts break for this moment, the one who sees Ali aches. Named Haydar by his mother, killed 35